Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Scholar Chit Chat. I'm your host Ojay. Today we're going to be talking about another scholarship, and we have a very special guest with us who will share his experiences. And we have Olumide with us, who has successfully navigated the Turkish Government Scholarship, and is here to tell us more about it. Welcome, Olumide.
Thank you, Ojay, for having me. I hope I got your name correctly.
Yes, you can call me
Yeah,
Ojay. That's
yeah.
fine.
I'm glad to be here, at least to share my experience with others that are willing to also secure international opportunities. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. We are thrilled to have you. So thank you so much for accepting our invitation. So we'll just go right to it. And I think before we actually talk about the scholarship itself, one of the things I like for people to do is to actually introduce themselves to the audience. So what they know about you now is Olumide, and you got the Turkish scholarship. But what more would you like people to know about you? Would you like them to know your background? Would you like them perhaps to know your research interest or your research focus? Whatever you feel comfortable sharing, so that the listeners kind of have some context of who you are.
Okay, thank you. My name is Olumide, but you can just go with Mide. It doesn't bother you. On Mide, Nigerian.
Okay.
I finished from University of Ibadan. Agricultural Economics Department in 2019. After that, I went for my national service as mandated, and after my national service, a little while after that, I secured the Turkish Government Scholarship to further my education here. And I graduated. I finished from my agricultural economics department also here from Ankara University in Turkey. My research interests are basically agricultural policy and food security. Because going by how things are now, especially in African countries, we know Nigeria is the proxy now. We know how things are in Nigeria, especially with food inflation caused by a lot of factors, insecurity, import dependence, and a lot of other factors. And you could also say the same for most African countries, because my postgraduate thesis focused on food security in African countries, actually caused by the Russia and Ukraine war. The findings from my research really was eye-opening, because mostly North African countries were impacted by the war in a negative way, not positive actually. Yeah. Because of their wheat dependence, especially on Russia and Ukraine. But sub-Saharan African countries like Nigeria was also affected, but not as much as North African countries were affected. So it's just a wake-up call, especially to African government, to work in collaboration to make sure food security, which is a global concern, is at least reduced to its barest minimum. So thank you. I hope I've been able to introduce myself.
Yeah, thank you so much, Olumide. So we've met Olumide, the ambitious. We do have some similarity actually, even though I've never met you, but we finished from the same university in the same year. And I know some people that finished in your department. I had a roommate in agricultural economics as well, the same year, 2019. So yeah, that's really cool that you've gone ahead to study agricultural economics, and clearly your passion for what you do shows and shines clearly. So thank you for sharing that with us. So I think we'll now go to talk about the Turkish scholarship itself, and just to get from you how you heard about the scholarship. How did you hear about it, and what motivated you to apply? What made you seem like, oh, this is the scholarship for me out of many?
Okay, actually I started my scholarship applications, I think in 2020. For me, in the year 2020, that's when I started. After I'd already finished my national service then, but the eye-opening experience for me was during the NSAS protest then, because usually I'd thought of course, pardon me, with my certificate and degree, bachelor, I didn't have to travel.
Yeah.
I know I didn't have to travel, just for me to maybe just rise through the ranks and all. But the NSAS saga then really swayed my decisions and all of that. So I started applying in 2020, I think in December 2020. I applied to scholarship like Commonwealth, applied for Erasmus. I even applied for MasterCard Foundation Scholarship. In January 2021, really, I didn't even know about the Turkish Government Scholarship. Really, I had no information. Before, one of my acquaintances then, he just mentioned that he said someone he knew at the time also told him about the Turkish Government Scholarship. You wouldn't hurt trying your luck and also increasing your chances and all of that. I was even skeptical. Now, usually every year, scholarship opens, I think, on the 10th of January every year and closes on the 20th of February every year. So presently, the scholarship is on. Application is on. Yeah, so till
20th
20th
of February.
Yeah, the 20th of February. So I wouldn't know when you will post this recording, at least to help people, to really help them to know that they can actually see applying for this scholarship. And interestingly, I'll share with you that I submitted my application I think on the 19th of February to show that I wasn't really of course, no one really takes something seriously and submit a day before deadline when you have some people submitting 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So I just, put some documents together and I just applied and say, okay, let's see where this would lead to. As it was even after then I realized, wow, I think I may have applied for something that would forever change my life. But at the time of applying, I was just it wasn't I was not serious with it, but I didn't devote the energy I was supposed to. As I should just throw in. And interestingly, the ones I was even focused serious, applying on doing research and all of that, none worked out. So you see how sometimes just the last minute application could be what would be the difference in the long run.
Yeah.
So that's that about that.
Oh wow, that's very interesting. I can totally see how you probably did not put in as much energy. I think you're going to walk us through the process. I don't know how hectic the process is, but I know that a lot of other scholarships, you have to devote a lot of energy and stuff. So if it's not as, I guess, consuming as those ones, you may not have put in much effort. But I think what you point to is very, very, very important about how just sow your seeds. You don't know what is going to change your life, I guess.
Yeah, really that's just that's how sometimes, of course, hard work also it's a determining factor, I would say. But sometimes I wouldn't say, okay, let me put it that maybe faith, luck, time, and chance could just be in your favor. That would just single you out. Because really, if my friend as I didn't mention this scholarship, probably I'll still be in Nigeria now. I'm still applying and focusing. So that's how it is. And it's why it's also important to also network with people of like minds. For instance, if you know you're chasing international scholarship, you should, I'm not saying you should just always look for group, but you should maybe, even if it's a group of 2 or 3 others that are also interested in it, to help, because you can't have you can't have access to the same kind of information.
Yeah.
Do you understand? Some people have a lot of access, and of course, you learn from each other. What are you doing on this? How we are applying for this, and it will even motivate you to even because really, you see, applying for scholarship is a long, tiring, and a lonely process. Especially when it comes to even beyond applying, the waiting period. It's a lonely process because you just keep hanging. Who knows what may come, and you just imagine it just waking up and seeing dear blah 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 blah. You regret. Oh no, you see, the rejection letters, they would always start with "Thank you for applying." So I see, "Thank you for applying for." Again, not again. Another thing about applying for scholarship, of course, it's not really, it doesn't go down well to always receive rejection letters, but that you can't, it's an inevitable part of the process. You can't. You win some, you lose some. In fact, you win some, you lose many. That's just you win some, you lose many, because you keep getting them, but you have to keep trying. You only need one yes. You only need a yes. That's all you need. You don't need more. Just keep applying and keep learning from your past applications. See what you could have done better. You understand?
You've shared a lot. You shared a lot, and I can relate to many of the things you've said, because I've shared my story, on the podcast as well, and it's quite similar to yours in the sense that, I think for you, it was even that you kind of got it almost in the same application cycle, because I think you applied in January.
Yeah, I applied in January, and by I think I was in January, then I got an interview invite in July the same year. Yeah, and I got the offer in August same year.
What year was this?
2021. Okay. 2021, yeah.
Okay. So I think the difference for me was I started applying for scholarships during my NYSC. I didn't get any scholarship during the NYSC. And then the next year, so I started applying in 2019, and then I didn't get any in 2019. and I applied in 2020. Then I just got 1 yes, as you said, 1 yes that changed everything.
That's actually what that matters. Just 1 year, like Brian, or despite going through the rejections, the emotions, because like really, hurt someone, the effort, the energy, the time invested, and you saying, blah 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 blah. Thank you for applying for our program. We received applications from a lot of qualified candidates. We regret to inform you. It can actually be discouraging. Really, it can be discouraging. But if you know, like, what you want and like what you need to say, yes.
There's something that makes it worth it, and I think it's the end goal, right? So, what does it actually cover? So, what is the package that you are missing?
You see, like, without mincing words, just like to speak to this directly. I think the Turkish, and I'm not speaking as a beneficiary, I'm just now on a neutral. I think the Turkish Government Scholarship is one of the most comprehensive scholarships in the world. Why? Because one, it covers the fees for your tuition, monthly stipend, health insurance. It also caters for, the first year you'll be provided with accommodation.
You understand? You'll be provided. You don't have to pay.
You don't have to pay. You'll be provided with accommodation, like in dormitories. For bachelors, students, you may have to stay in the dormitories till you graduate. But for postgraduate students, I'm talking about masters, and for PhDs, after the first year, you're allowed to leave the dormitory. So, but if you decide to leave, the scholarship, the government will pay directly the accommodation allowance to your account, from which you now pay yourself. So beyond that, also it offers you a return ticket. So you basically don't have to spend anything coming here. Like, you don't have to think of how about the ticket, the flight ticket, and it's all catered for by the Turkish government.
Interesting. That's truly, as you said, one of the most comprehensive packages anybody can get.
Yes, it is.
Covers you, I think I used to think about this kind of scholarships like, once you just get them, all you have to do is pack your bag. You don't have to have any other money.
Bag and just pack your bag and just hop on. But then another thing is, winning or securing this is not as easy as it sounds. And also because times have changed. You see, I think I tell people now, what you would need to win a scholarship, maybe 2, 3, not even 2, because 2 is even 4 or 5 years ago, you'd need maybe 5 times of that now. Why? Because the quality now and the volume, the implications now, it makes it so competitive to just submit a not so quality application, and you expect, and on emotions, they have to see what you said you can do. Most of them, scholarships are merit based. For instance, I think the Mastercard scholarship basically is mainly focused on your CGPA. Is why now we should advise people as much as we can. I think the minimum acceptable grade now, I would not to talk down on others, because we have different abilities and capacities, but the minimum acceptable to make it easier for you to navigate should be a 2-1. Really. Of course, there are a lot of tutors that have gone ahead to win scholarships, but then why put yourself in a situation where you have to keep applying and apply for a long time? Because even presently, you have a lot of first class graduates that are even going through rejections, to show you how the competition is. It is well, we'll all be fine. That I know.
Yeah, we'll definitely be fine. So I think started to talk about the next point or next question I was going to raise about how people can increase their chances of being selected given the selection criteria. So can you give us an insight into what they are looking for and how people can increase their chances?
I think firstly, let's go to I think I will share the application criteria with you.
Yeah.
Okay. For graduate students, for masters, and for PhDs, the minimum you should have, your CGPA the minimum should be 75%. You convert your CGPA to percentage, and the minimum should be 75%. But for bachelors, 70%. 70%. While for especially for students going for medicine, dentistry, and pharmacy, is 90%. Now, but there's also the age requirement.
Okay.
For bachelor's degree, you must be under 21 years at the time of application. For masters now, like there's a little bit of modification there, because for masters it used to be 35 years, but now because of they're also changing, they're upgrading, now it's below 30 years for masters. If you're above 30, unfortunately you do be able to, in fact, once you enter your date of birth, it will show that you are not eligible to apply. While for the PhD, it should be under 35 years at the time of applying. Now, beyond the criteria required, I think the first thing here is your CGPA. Now, remember I mentioned the minimum.
Yeah.
For instance, a graduate student, or a prospective graduate student, as I'll say. For instance, let's say for me, I have a 75%, and another person has a 90%. But I'm saying, because I've already met the minimum requirement, it shows I have a chance. But compared to someone that has a 90%, who do you think, naturally, as human beings, who do you think they'll first consider? Of course, someone that has a 90%, because he has something higher than I do. The CGPA is important, and to the extracurricular activities too, because it's not just academics. You want to see like other things you've done beyond academics. You also want to see areas where you've shown leadership, of course, like areas where you shown leadership, and also like your volunteering activities too. It also matters. Once you can really like string the application together, you should be able. You have a chance. I wouldn't say it's guaranteed, but you have a chance. Being called or being invited for interview, which is where I want to talk about for the interview too. Being invited for the interview is like you have a 50% chance of being selected. I wouldn't say 100% chance. After the interview, you'd also be evaluated holistically to see if you are fit or not. It's saddening seeing like people called for the interview, and in the long run they say they were not chosen for the scholarship, but what exactly can be done? That's just how unfortunately, we just have to go with it. At the later stages, I have to talk about like the application process when we reach
that was kind of like the next question I was going to segue into, because you kind of talk. I think one of the things you kind of emphasize in your answer is like, I think grades are very important, simply because they set eligibility criteria. Like you can't even start if you don't have a certain kind of grade, so you have to have that.
You need to. It's a requirement.
So there's the grades, there's the age you've mentioned as well. Age is something else that is also very important. But then the application process itself. So if you meet the age, if you meet the grades, and if you if you maybe have you feel like, oh, I've done some things that make me stand out, how do you actually now go about applying for the scholarship?
The applications, we have like a prior idea of how it shouldn't take you more than 1 hour, 60 minutes. It shouldn't take you more than 1 hour. Yeah, but like there are like 2 stages. The first stage, upon registering, because like you have to register, I think I would send but it's, I think www.com, you'd have to log in to the address and just like upload you register as a first time applicant, or if you had already applied before, you just log in. There are 2 stages. The first one is the profile, where you fill in your personal profile, your education information, your work experience, I think your hobbies, because it's been a while, so I'm trying to remember the different sections. I think there's also parts you can fill in your international like scores. For instance, if you've taken SATs, GRE, there's a part for that. I think that, but generally it's just a personal profile. After you must have completed that part, that's when you can fully begin the scholarship process, which is divided into segments itself. So for bachelor's, you just have to submit, I think, your statement of purpose, which is, of course, you have to write something like why you're interested in the scholarship and all of that, the statement of purpose, and I think you have to upload reference letters. You have to. So I think it's time you start talking to past teachers. If you really want to start talking to them, so they can draft, and it has to be a letterhead. It's not something you just write on a sheet of paper. You just write on one document, and so it has to be a letterhead, only like officially addressed to the scholarship body, and you upload, and that's all. But
you're the one doing the uploading of those letters.
Like you can upload yourself, of course. Like your recommenders don't have to stress themselves, like filling it through the link. no link will be sent to your recommender. You just have to like draft one for you and send to you, and then you upload yourself afterwards. That's for bachelor's. For master's and doctoral students, aside from your statement of purpose, you need to draft a research proposal. Now, he said, now, like I want to say, the research proposal is not binding. Doesn't mean that's what you would eventually work on. No, that's in fact most people, not even most, almost everyone like didn't eventually work on the but it's just a way to assess your level of preparedness to know if you can conduct research, because master's year and you have to go through research, and research is not something as easy as people feel it is. So they don't see your ability to conduct quality research, which will be evidenced by your research proposal. So you have to, I think there are different sections. It's not like you submit a whole document on there. I think there are different for maybe like the topic, the proposed topic, literature review, methodology, potential contribution to academic knowledge, and all of that. They are divided into segments which you can easily see on the portal. So it's not like you just draft as a document. No, they're already divided. And please, I would like to say, as much as you can, do not use AI, because that could be a disqualifying factor almost immediately. You have to be original. You have to be yourself. There is no point in using ChatGPT, because that shows you are dependent on technology to even like draft the research proposal. You should not be. As much as you can, please limit it. Don't just copy and paste. Of course, you have like things where you can first like maybe draft your initial thought and then you write in your own words. But even that, for a lot of people, that's even difficult. We just like type, just copy and paste, and it's like an issue because the evaluators, they've been doing this for many years, so there's always a pattern. If they see your sentences and the strings, they would know, no, this is not original, this has been. They have a lot of applications to evaluate, so like they're always looking for any little chance to disqualify. So you should not give them any chance to even like disqualify you at the first sight of it. So please just go through it well and submit something. Just try and make it original as much as you can. That's all.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. So from what to summarize a bit of some of the things that I picked up from your responses, is the fact that you said, one, that the application is in 2 stages. First, you register an account, and then you fill out a form, but it's digital anyway. You kind of fill out different segments of the form, and some of the things they will ask you. I found it interesting when you mentioned they could ask you for your hobbies, but I think the first point is that they'll ask you like your personal profile, and you have to put in information. Would they ask you for like details about your international passport, perhaps?
Yeah, or like, okay, of course you can, but in place of that, you can use your NIN. Because even during mine, I used my NIN. Because I had not applied for my international passport at the time. So you can use your NIN. But once you get into the interview stage and all of that, it's advisable to get a passport at the time. But at the time of application, you can use your NIN. Just you put your national ID number. That's all.
And then you also mentioned the fact that there's also a part for you to upload your reference letter. You mentioned that you need the statement of purpose. And you've said, and I think, of course, which is a very valid like advice, try to keep it unique, try to keep it original, don't use AI, and make sure you communicate your interest and your passion for what you're applying for. And then you said that's for the bachelor's, and then you said in addition to that, for the master's and the doctoral candidates, they would applicants, you would also need to write a research plan, which is not just one document. I think that was something I found interesting. Like you have to do like multiple sections, like different questions.
And also I need to add, like, you should also follow, because they all have like word limits. You should follow that to the letter. Like, don't exceed. There's even no chance you can exceed the word limit, because the system automatically cuts the extra words out. So it's not even possible to exceed it. But you can to keep it concise and clean and easily understandable. Please, there is no need to use bogus words, technical words. Just easy understandable, because you wouldn't know if your reviewers are in the same line of interest as you are. So like, you using technical words could be a disadvantage to you. Something is easily understandable.
That's valid. And I think two things I wanted to ask as well from that point is, you mentioned like work experience. Does that really impact your chances, I guess?
No, like work experience does not really impact your chances. It really doesn't impact your really. It doesn't impact your chances. But if you have any, if you have any that is related to what you're applying for, yeah, it would be an advantage. But I really don't think it impacts.
You mentioned like on international exams like SATs, GRE. How do those impact as well?
It actually depends on your line of studies. For instance, if you are maybe applying for an engineering program, the GRE could be an advantage. I'm not saying that's the only factor, because of course we've had a lot of people, that have been awarded the scholarship without the GRE. Just submitting a GRE is just for you to increase your chances, but there is no guarantee. But it's just for you to increase it. Okay, you have a GRE, and if the GRE score is not good enough, there is no point including it, because that's the disadvantage. It's not a necessary requirement, but if you have the GRE, at least it should be a very, very, very good score. So if you now submit something that is not required and you have a low score, that's your disadvantage. So that's just it. But actually, adding international scores could. I'm saying not it will. It could increase your chances of being selected.
Yeah. How about like English proficiency? Because I think one thing I'm also curious about is if the degree is taught in English. If you ever have to learn Turkish. Yeah.
See, I'm laughing there because this is the most important part of the scholarship. Because either you're learning English or Turkish, you have to go through a 1-year Turkish language course from A1 to C1 if your program will be in English, or from A1 to like C2. C2 is academic Turkish level if your program will be in Turkish. For me, my program was in Turkish, so I had to go through A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, then the academic Turkish. If I'm not trying to discourage anyone, but if you struggled with languages, maybe you should expand your search, really.
I like the way you said that.
Yeah, but
expand your search.
Like there is nothing I have to I would gain from missing words here. I have to just be honest as much as I can, really. Because for bachelors, maybe it will be easier because of the age, but usually often postgraduate students tend to struggle with the language, and I understand, because this is a factor. It's not easy learning new languages in a certain age. So if you don't have that flair for learning languages, please, I think you should consider other options, because we've had some people that had to just abandon the program and went back to their country because they couldn't cope. And that was even during the language period. Not even they had not started their program before they even left. There's no way I can, because the Turkish is interesting. It's a very good language, but it's a little bit complicated.
I guess it's completely different from English as well. Like there's no shared history.
There are two opposites.
And you are fluent, so you are fluent. Like you are C2 fluent.
No, like I have a certificate, but I wouldn't say I'm C2. Probably I'm B1. But of course, like you see, for normal conversations, it's easy for me to communicate with them, and they also listen. Of course.
You said your course was in Turkish.
Yeah, it was in Turkish.
So how did you?
My research was in Turkish.
How did that go? Sorry, this is not even on the but I'm so curious now. Well, before you actually go into that, it's possible for people to apply for courses in English, right?
Yeah, it is possible. But for some courses, you can't find English options, just in Turkish. Like for instance now, agricultural economics. Like if I could find an English option, then of course I would have gone for the English option. But unfortunately, no English option, so I had to just choose Turkish.
So how was the experience with studying in a language you had to learn in a year, and then you had to actually learn in that language for academia and research in that language? I feel it to be so complicated.
Ojay, this is a whole different level we are going into. By the time we came there, I think a few days after we came, of course, because we had already been placed in the language course, and oftentimes is your university's language center. For instance, now I finished from Ankara University, but my language course was also in Ankara University's language teaching center. Do you understand? So the universities have their language center, so they just place you there directly, except for maybe for some that then they have to merge you with students from other schools, but within the same city. You see, learning a language and studying in the language are two different things. I wouldn't even lie to you. Learning language, of course, it was fun. just at some point it was fun because like when we just started, then it was, of course, there was this motivation to go to classes, to learn new words. It was like just like teaching babies and all of that. But at a point, I think B1, B2, we already lost drive. Or like someone being forced to go, already lost the drive. But beyond that, of course, I finished, I got a certificate. Now, starting my program, that was another thing. Because there are two different words. In Turkish schools, of course, you have your teachers, they speak slowly, clearly, they go over it again. But the university, no lecturer, no professor has the time to be speaking slowly, because of course it's you and Turkish students, so like no one has the time to be going through things over like. And then Turkish, they speak very fast and they speak softly, quietly.
Interesting.
Sometimes you won't even get so I have to strain my ears because you have to, like as opposed to Nigerians, like we speak loud and like we pronounce like it was, but here they speak softly and quietly, so you have to strain your ears. So it was a challenging, I would say it was a challenging experience for me, but I had to adapt easily. That's the bit of it, because I knew as a master's student, I had only one session, 2 semesters. Because usually for masters and for PhD, you only have one session for coursework. So if you flop within that year, there is no redo. Unfortunately, you just have to live with it that way. So I knew I had to easily and like quickly adapt, because I only had 2 semesters my coursework. Because for masters now you have after language course, you have one session for academic and the other like the last year for research for your thesis, no coursework. So I had to quickly adjust. Then I did a lot of self-learning. I remember after my lectures, then like I would on my personal account, because I had a flash disk, then I would send the lecturers, because the lecturers prepared, and that's one of the benefits. They prepared PowerPoint, their lecture notes. Now imagine if there were no PowerPoint slides, like I would have hope as an international student. So I would send the slides to my flash disk, and then I would translate the lectures to English. Of course, some like I understood easily, but there's some technical words that I didn't understand and what different from what we were taught as language, because I had to translate to English. And okay, this is what they're trying to say this, and that was what helped. I wouldn't say like it came or I did that it was a bed of roses. I wouldn't lie. You have to work, and also pray. Really, you have to work and pray.
Oh wow, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being real.
At all. It wasn't easy. But then it was what I told myself, because I was already working before coming here. I was working in Lagos then. So I had a moment of, but I was honest with myself. I told myself that if I resigned, then I had no choice but to complete this program. There is no abandoning the program or saying I wasn't doing it again. I had to just see it through, no matter how difficult it got. And I'm actually glad I really saw it through and didn't give up, because really, as a graduate student, even studying in English, not even Turkish now, you have moments of self-doubt. You have a lot of moments of self-doubt. Like you think, do I really know what I'm doing? And sometimes you do want to just abandon the program and say, I don't think I'm really ready for this. I think I made a mistake. It's normal. It's normal. Just continue, and because no matter what you do, the time will still pass. It's either the time comes and you graduate, or the time comes and you drop out. So you'd be the one to choose which of the sides you'd like to belong to. So that's just how it is.
Thank you so much for being real. And I think this is something that will really help applicants as well make the decision or prepare themselves as well for the journey ahead and the stuff ahead. So yeah, I can only imagine, to be honest. I'm just every day I thank my God that I had to study in English, and that Nigerian, and that English was the Nigerian official language. I understand how much of an advantage it was, because I saw other international students struggling.
It's not easy to study in a foreign language. It's always not easy.
So yeah, still talking about application requirements and stuff like that. So since you are going to learn Turkish and perhaps study in Turkish, I guess English proficiency is not really a thing for them.
They usually not demand for English proficiency or English test, but for instance, if your program is in English, they require you to submit maybe your IELTS or your TOEFL results. If your program that could also increase your chances of being selected, but it doesn't affect you studying or not studying. The Turkish language is a requirement. You have to, either you're in English in an English program or a Turkish program, you have to go through the Turkish language course for 1 year. But if submitting your internal results is for you to be accepted and admitted into the program itself. It doesn't affect the language course at all. So if your program is in English and you submit maybe your IELTS or TOEFL scores or other accepted test scores, you could up your chances of being selected. But sadly, we have to learn Turkish.
I mean, it's good to always learn. And one of the things I learned yesterday was, I literally learned this yesterday, that speaking multiple languages, I mean, normally most Nigerians already speak more than one language anyway, but speaking more than one language reduces your chances of Alzheimer's. So
really?
Yeah.
Wow, like this is actually my first time of hearing that.
Exactly. I heard it yesterday too for the very first time.
Wow, so that's nice. But what you see, like I've always had a flair for learning new languages, because at the time, I think when I was in high school, then I was extremely good in French. I liked French. So this like a scholarship, I thought while in high school I loved French. So Turkish should not be a problem. It should be a walk in the park because I love languages. But I got there, I saw that my writing was different. While in high school I was younger. It was easier for me to get.
You don't have any worries. Yeah. You're just learning language and I'm being happy.
As a grad student, after battling ASU, NASU, all those schools, coming here with the age, it wasn't easy for me. Really.
I can actually imagine.
What?
But yeah, you made it.
I did.
You made it, sir. Yeah, the other side, which is really great. So for the CV, I'm still going back to the application requirement. So for the CV, did you have to use the Europass CV format? Because I know...
No, there is no specification. The first for CVs, there's nobody. You just have to submit a CV. You could use Europass. They are indifferent about the format. Just list the important thing. And except you are applying for a bachelor's where you need to add maybe include your high school. For postgraduate students, I don't think the high school section is needed. You can just start with your research interest, your research, especially for graduate students, because that's what I applied for postgraduate. They expect that police they have little or no experience, so like no one really expects something on a huge scale from bachelors. But for masters, even if you don't have like relatable work experience, at least your research experience, even you could include your undergraduate thesis and all of that to it. And if you have any place you maybe did internship or practical work, you could also include it. You could boost your chances. You should come under the research section. But there is no format. You could use Europa, you could use just something. That's what they want to see, just your experience, that's all.
That's really helpful to know. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I think we've talked about the application process, but I think one of the things we've not really clarified is, where do the universities come into this? So you've mentioned you studied...
I actually should have mentioned this while talking about like applying for it. Now, you see, they made it so easy here. You don't have to really stress yourself looking for universities yourself. No, the scholarship, it covers university placement itself. But then, while applying, once you choose your discipline, because of course there are sections where you just choose is a drop down. For instance, microbiology, applied economics, and all. Once you choose your discipline, automatically brings a list of universities which you can choose from, and you don't have to apply to the universities. No, there's no separate application required for the universities.
Awesome.
Once you've been selected for the scholarship, now they place you to the universities themselves. That you don't have any control over that. Their discretion, randomly. But you have the option of ranking the universities you'd like to go to. You can rank, just do the selection as you like, but the final selection is on their part. It's not on your part. They just give you anyone. That's what you have to stick to. As long as you want to be under the scholarship, there is no but I chose it as my first choice. But for me, I was lucky to get my first choice because I was given my first choice university. But some others, they're just random selections. That's how it is.
This is like super actually, like, because I know like a lot of scholarships, you first apply to the scholarship, then you go and look for university, and then you apply to the university. But doing everything in one, like using a stone to kill two birds, it's really...
There's no separate application required. There's no separate university application required for this scholarship. Once you apply for the scholarship, it's just been noted there. All you have to do, once you've been selected and you're in Turkey, you just have to go submit your document at the Student Affairs Division. That's all you need. You don't have to apply online.
You have to do what?
You have to submit your document at the Student Affairs of your university.
Of the
school? Of the school.
When you resume?
Yeah, that's during the language.
Okay.
The course, you just have to go to Student Affairs so you can be registered as a student. Okay. Because without being registered as a student, you can't receive stipend, and you can also, for instance, you won't be able to get your bus card as a student, which is cheaper than using like the normal card. So there are a lot of benefits you'd actually then from being registered as a student at a university. But if you don't submit your documents, you can't have access to these services.
That's actually nice to know. So at least because some other scholarships you have to actually post. You have to even post your documents during the processing. But at least that's not the case here. You just have to travel.
You don't have to. You just have to travel with your document. But I think but when you get here, of course, you may have to translate. But of course, that will be here. You have to translate your documents to Turkish and then submit. But that's not a stressful procedure. You just have to give them. We have a lot of translators here, even in different cities, that will help you translating your documents. That's not so stressful at all.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think one other question I have is one that people also think about when they are thinking of applying for stuff is, do you have any requirements to return to your home country after?
No, like the Turkish scholarship, like you're not mandated to return to your home country. If you finish here and you want to continue and you find a job, of course you can continue here. A lot of scholarship holders that have graduated like years before that are still here now working, and also like for instance the Commonwealth scholarship, I think you have to return immediately after. Yeah, but here it's not like that. You can stay. You're actually eligible to stay. Yeah. You're eligible to stay here. Like once you've graduated, you have to look for maybe jobs to do, because it's even almost impossible to continue living here without getting a job. Because how would you pay for how would you pay your bills and all of that? So you just have to look for something to do, and you can keep saying you would apply for a work visa and you keep living. There is no problem at all.
That's really great. Okay, so yeah, people don't have to return, which is nice. So that's another plus to this awesome scholarship that we've been discussing. And then I think also another thing that people ask is if they're able to travel with dependents.
Yeah, sadly the scholarship doesn't cover for I think so. Maybe just for undergraduate, of course, no one expects you to travel with your family. But even for postgraduate students, the scholarship does not cover expenses for your dependents. Sadly, just you. If you want to bring your family, that would be on your own account, your own expense. But the scholarship does not provide.
You can actually bring them. You can bring them.
It's actually possible, because you have people that brought their families from their countries. You can, but I'm just saying it won't be sponsored by the scholarship, by the government. But on your own account, of course, your family can come. There's no problem with that. They will apply for visa.
You think the stipend can support someone support the family? I don't know. I'm trying to think about what size of family. A wife and a child, maybe.
A wife and a child. If you would be bringing your wife and a child, I don't think the stipend is enough to support you. But of course, you have. But if you are on the side, maybe you're still working from your home country, maybe something remote, because of course you have a lot of people that when they came here, they were still working, but remotely, not physically. But if you're working remotely and if you have a transitory, let me just put it like that. If you have a transitory sort of income, your other sort of income, of course you can bring them here. But bring your family on your stipend, it's almost impossible. It's almost impossible.
Also, I think another thing people actually also consider, again, is the question I want to ask is if you can work while you study. Is there an opportunity to do some part-time gigs, or you have to study full-time?
No, as a scholarship student, because normally they'll tell you, but there's even stipend. But of course, if you can get part-time gigs. Of course, they know, everyone knows how things are. Of course, but you can get part-time, because usually, I think even while in your language school, I think because you'd finish maybe in the afternoons and all, so you can easily do some other things that could actually earn you some just something extra on top of your stipend that would keep you going. So it's very possible to find other things. And also there are also opportunities. For instance, in summers, there are paid internships here. Go for internships and they are paid. So it's very possible to find gigs here really now. And even here, because it's an advantage. Coming from an English-speaking country is an advantage here, because you can actually do part-time, maybe as you doing part-time teaching English. You can be a private tutor, but not full-time, because of course it require a work visa. But you can do something on the side, maybe online tutoring, teaching English. It really helps, because the main English is Turkish, so they're also invested in learning English, and actually pays well. So it's something you can do if you can actually.
So I think thank you so much for going into as much detail, being very, very frank and candid with us, and just sharing everything.
It's a pleasure to be had.
So I think that because we're running out of time, I just want to also give you the opportunity to. We could literally go on and on. I think you've had an exciting experience, and you are such a delight to listen to, talking about you, and you are very forthcoming with your experiences. So yeah, I think we can actually listen to you for a very, very long time. So yeah, but to wrap things up, I want to give you the opportunity to kind of like speak to the audience or speak to the listeners generally and be like, oh, what advice would you want them to know, or what would you have done differently, whichever kind of thing you would just like to kind of leave with them, and like as like final words from yourself.
Okay.
Please share with them.
Yeah, thank you. Just to wrap things up, I think this message is especially for undergraduate students. You see, there's this popular saying that says school as scam. Please don't take such things to heart. I can tell you, like, education has and is still changing the lives of people. Possibly. In fact, one scholarship opportunity can change the life of your family for good. Just one opportunity. So please, if you're in school, please take your grade seriously. See that you finish, do your best, and get the highest grade possible. And also, I think it's a good time to also build a rapport with your lecturers, because then, you see, if I had known better, then probably I would have gotten, of course, I'm close to my lecturers now, don't get me wrong, but maybe I would have gotten closer to my lecturers, because in your applications, you need your lecturers for references, and that's a big problem now. Especially applications, you getting reference from your lecturers. For instance, you having no relationship with your lecturers and you just calling or texting them. So it won't work, because they wouldn't even know what to write about you. So I think now is the time to like start building, if you're still an undergraduate student, start building a good relationship with your lecturers so they can stand in for you when you need references. And also, I think right from undergraduate, I think you should start. Of course, you may not have the qualifications to apply, but I think it's best to know, at least to have an idea of scholarship applications as an undergraduate. That, I think, if I'd known things earlier, then I think maybe they would have changed some things a little bit, because I told you, I started my applications right after NYSC, but like, of course, you still want your, but I'm just thinking, what would have happened if I had actually known this since my second year, my third year, my first year. So it will make you like better prepared for applying. That's all, and I wish you all the very best in your endeavors.
Thank you so much, Olumide, for such inspiring words. And I think what you've said kind of ties nicely to sort of kind of like the goal of even the podcast generally. Is kind of like bringing this process closer to people. I know there's a lot of YouTube channels, a lot of...
Exactly.
You can start preparing for a better life now, right? Don't just play and or whatever.
Really, because like, I think you having this mindset so early would influence your academic performance even in school. Like, you knowing what you are going for after school. Really, I wouldn't lie to you. While I was in school, then I was just focused on me graduating the best grade possible. I didn't even think of scholarship applications then, because I was thinking I'll just maybe work for a company in Nigeria, or maybe what comes to us, I'll just maybe come back to this department and rise to the rank as a lecturer and all of that. So it was after I graduated, I said, so I could apply for scholarship. So even you getting the grade, it's not like, of course, you have a lot of people that have graduated from universities and they didn't end up using the grade, but I always say it is better to have it and not need it than to need it and need it and not have it. And so just graduate with the best possible grade you can. Just see how things play out, but just do your best while in school. That's all that matters.
You said it all. So thank you so much, Olumide. And I believe that the listeners will have learned a lot about the Turkish scholarship and also learned a lot about how to position themselves to be recipients of the scholarship. And I want to also believe that you're open to receiving queries. I know it's been a while since you applied, but I feel like you'll still be happy to point people in the right direction.
Surely. Anytime. If anyone has questions, they can just take them. I will find a chance to reply promptly.
Thank you so
much, Ojay, for having me. It was really nice. I really had fun.
Oh yeah, I had fun as well listening to you, and I believe that the listeners will as well. So yeah, thank you so much, listeners, as well. And I believe that everybody listening has found this episode enlightening and helpful. So we've learned a lot about the Turkish Government Scholarship. It can change your life. You don't really use the scholarship, but you just need to pack your bag and then you're off to better climes, and the future just kind of expands before you. So just continue to take these opportunities, and there are many opportunities like this. So I would say until next time, keep striving.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Scholar Chit Chat. If you found our conversation insightful and enjoyable, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to stay updated. We've got a lot more in store and we don't want you to miss out.
We are always diving into topics like this: academics, scholarship, professional life, and the international student experience. It's what makes Scholars Chit Chats your go-to podcast for a fresh perspective. Also, don't keep all this wisdom to yourself. Share this episode with your friends and family who could benefit from it. We are building a community of learners and would love for you to be a part of it.
Your thoughts matter to us. We want to hear from you. Drop your comments and questions in the chat, or send your questions, suggestions, and comments to scholarchitchat@gmail.com. Your input helps shape the future of Scholar Chit Chats.